Alright, let's see how this goes.
Advises that the number you have dialed was incomplete or incorrect. Please check the number and dial again. 02 L.
Howdy, episode 7 of the Anti-Social podcast. It was not meant to be episode 7. I had another one planned and ready to go, but decided to jump in and throw this one into the mix. I've got a cool guest today, and one that sort of popped up at the last minute, and I jumped on board with that, so I'll explain a bit more soon. But this is the first episode where it's actually, well, the first episode since the podcast is actually officially launched. So as of today, we're 5 episodes in. The 5th one went up a couple of days ago, and to be honest, the feedback's been really cool. It's been really positive. I've actually had no negative feedback at all. I've had some tips and tricks with some audio, ways to improve the audio. A lot of it going over my head, of course, because I'm a bit of a tech retard, so to speak, which I'm not too worried about at this point in time. I've taken the feedback on board, which is great, but I think from the goal at the moment, or the mission, is just to get as many episodes out and get into the groove of putting together episodes and enjoying that and building that momentum, and over time I'll learn more techniques and ways of refining each episode and making it sound a bit slicker each time. But I kind of like the rawness of it as well. I guess the main thing is to ensure that it's pleasant on the ears and it's not uncomfortable in any way. So if for whatever reason you do feel that there's levels of discomfort listening to the podcast, excluding content, let me know, and I'll do my best to make sure that the quality continues to improve. But apart from that, there's been no negative feedback whatsoever, which might indicate that maybe I just need more listeners. Maybe you really only get any negative feedback once you hit a certain level of popularity, and maybe I just need to reach that next level. So when the haters do roll in and start hanging shit on what I do, then I'll know that I'm doing great things. So fingers crossed, the haters come in soon. To keep in theme with episode 6, I'm going to continue putting in fake sponsors for the episodes, due to the fact that I can't warrant actually having any sponsors on the show as of yet. Maybe one day down the track, if this thing actually becomes something bigger than what it is now. So, as I said, to keep in theme, this episode 7, is not brought to you by my replica Tokyo Giants baseball that I got a few years ago when I visited Japan with my now fiance, and we saw the Tokyo Giants play at Tokyo Dome. And I've got to be honest, I know absolutely nothing about baseball whatsoever. Never really been a baseball fan. I've tried to watch it on TV, and it sort of just goes over my head and is pretty boring to watch. I'm sure there's, especially for my American friends that are listening in, are probably cursing me right now as they listen to me say that. I guess from an Australian point of view, baseball is definitely not big here whatsoever. We do have, I believe, some Australians that play in the major league, or at least one or two. I don't know. I've got no idea. But I know we've got some very small minor leagues here in Australia. But for the most part, it's virtually unknown and something that's associated with other countries. And given that I've been to Japan quite a few times over the years now, I've been very lucky to do that as a tourist and as a performer as well with the band. I've just been very lucky to be able to experience many parts of the culture, and baseball seems to be a part of Japanese culture that they've certainly embraced over the years as the country has become more and more westernized. And it's very much, probably one of the most popular sports in Japan. It's huge, and the opportunity, and I tried to do this the last couple of times. I've been to Japan on my own or on holiday with my fiance, but I've always tried to look for different things that I normally wouldn't do at home, just to experience something different in another country. And to see some sporting matches has been a really cool eye-opener and a cool experience, especially in a country that's so different. like Japan is to Australia. I've been to a basketball game, which was really cool. I've also gone to a sumo tournament, which was really, really awesome down at Fukuoka. And yeah, so when I last went over for a holiday, the opportunity came up to go and see the Giants play at Tokyo Dome. And Tokyo Dome is one of those places that's it's a landmark. It's one of those famous arenas globally where a lot of famous bands have played, and a lot of my favorite rock albums have been recorded in, along with Budokan as well. But Tokyo Dome is just one of those really cool monster arenas. That's stadiums, I should say. Although what's the difference between an arena and a stadium? Is there a difference between it? I might have to look that one up because I don't know. Maybe it's just depending on where you come from, you can give it a different title. Anyway, I'm going off track. I went and saw them play another Tokyo team, which I cannot remember, and they lost. So who cares? The game itself was amazing. It was absolutely packed. We all got like a souvenir jersey when we came in. Everyone got one for free. It marked some sort of occasion that I had no idea what was going on, but it was a free jersey, which was cool. And they had an awesome merchandise shop where I got this baseball and a bunch of other stupid stuff that is collecting dust in my apartment here. The game itself was cool, and I guess it's like a lot of sports, and I can definitely relate to this in Australia with sports such as cricket. If you watch it on TV, it's you can only watch so much of it before you start to zone out. I'm not talking on behalf of everybody, but at least for myself, and I know a few other people definitely feel the same. But if you're there and you're in the stands and you have the atmosphere and the crowd and the beer definitely helps. It definitely makes the whole experience very interesting and engaging, and it's definitely not a boring time being there. So the whole night went really quickly. I tried to get my head around how the game was working. I started to follow it little bits and pieces, but overall didn't really understand what the hell was going on, but thoroughly enjoyed it. We were actually in the opposition stands with the other Tokyo team's fans, and they had trumpets and drums and all sorts of things, and it was actually pretty funny because towards the start, everyone was very quiet before the game started, and people were excited but pretty reserved and very stereotypical of what I was expecting the Japanese crowd to be. And the game started and people started getting into it, and they had their little chants and they had the trumpets and everything playing, and they had these songs and whatever that they were singing. But as the game progressed and more beer got consumed, especially in the opposition stand, all these fans were getting more and more rowdy, and because their team was losing, they started to get more and more agitated and angry and disgruntled, and it was quite comical because they were just starting to fall over each other and carry on, and they were playing their instruments and drumming louder, and it was a really, really funny area to be in, a situation to be in. It was really cool just to see these Japanese baseball fans really letting loose and having a great time despite their team losing. And one of the coolest things, which I mean for me it is, given that I'm a huge beer lover, is that most sporting matches you usually have to get up and back behind the stands to a bar or a kiosk or something like that to get your drinks. But at least in Tokyo Dome, this is the first place I've ever seen it, on every aisle there's several small Japanese girls that run up and down the aisles, and they've got these giant beer kegs on their back. And when I'm talking about giant, the girls could easily fit inside these kegs. They were almost taller than them. And attached to the kegs, they had a hose with a nozzle on it, and the keg was branded by whatever beer it was. So you would have Asahi, Kirin, Suntory, all these great Japanese beers on the backs of all these small Japanese girls running up and down the aisles of the stadium. And when you looked across the entire stadium and you could see all the aisles, you could just see these little specks running up and down the aisles, and it looked like ants because the stadium's just absolutely ginormous. It's huge. And For me, it was amazing. I was in heaven. I was in this unique setting, a place that I just never thought I'd ever visit, and to see a sporting match that I'd never seen before. I'd never been to a baseball game, let alone one in Japan. And then to have beer served to me while I'm sitting down and being able to select the type of beer as the girls were running past was amazing. So all you would do is they would give you a plastic cup, and they would get their nozzle out and fill up the beer into the beer cup. You would give them, I think it was equivalent probably about $6 a cup, and the cups were probably about, I don't know, 400 or 500 mils. So they weren't tiny cups, they were pretty decent. So it was great. So your only challenge or problem would be when it is time to go to the toilet and having to get up. But apart from that, you're pretty much set. And they had the other vendors running up and down the aisles with food, like, you know, junk food and whatever. But the beer girls were amazing. It was really cool. I was just in absolute heaven. It was amazing. So anyway, this episode is not brought to you by my Tokyo Giants replica baseball. I'll take a photo and put it up on the Facebook page in case anybody is mildly interested in that. But I found that on the shelf and figured it was an appropriate little fake sponsor for the show. And we'll have to have a look and see what other useless object I can put on for episode 8 when that airs. So anyway, moving along. So this is actually the first international guest that I've had, and I've got this cool new device that I'm trying to work out. I actually bought this Zoom H5 recorder, which is amazing. It's really cool, and I'm still trying to get my head around how it all works and the best way to use it, and still trying to get through the troubleshooting of having it recognized by Skype. And I've gone through all this tech headache of troubleshooting to see why it's not picking up my external mic. But anyway, we'll continue to slave away at that. But the other cool thing with it is I can plug external mics into it, which I'm doing right now, and I'm also able to record phone conversations just plugging a line out lead straight into my iPhone and making phone calls through there. So for those people that I can't meet up with or don't have Skype or just don't want to use it, I can still use the phone. So for this particular one, I made an international phone call to India, of all places, and the guest for this episode is a guy that I've known for quite a few years by the name of Riju, and surname is Dasgupta, and I'm sure I have totally pronounced that surname wrong, so apologies in advance. And I'm sure for all of my Indian friends that are listening now, you're probably all having a good laugh at that. But Riju is a really cool guy, and as I said, I've known him for a few years now, and plays bass in a metal band from Mumbai called Albatross. Albatross has been around for roughly 5 years now, and started off as being a very King Diamond influenced band, and have progressed quite considerably since then, and have released a new album now called Fear of the Skies. Very hard to describe their music now, but I can still hear bits of the sort of the King Diamond elements to the music, but it's very eclectic. There's lots of different styles all meshed in together, and I think for a progressive metal fan, probably really dig it. But I think everyone should at least give it a shot, and I'll put a link to a track in the show notes so you can check it out, as well as everything else that we discuss in this episode. Albatross actually came out to Australia a few years ago. I helped them put on a few shows in Melbourne, Sydney, and Wollongong. They had a very short period of time, just a weekend, to be here in Australia, so I helped them out and put these shows on. And look, for one of the first Indian metal bands to tour Australia, they did pretty well, and I've definitely made some lifelong friends from those guys in the band. So it was cool. I was actually speaking to Riju online just before this episode was recorded, and I actually had the intention of recording this over the coming weeks, and we just started talking and realised that he was pretty much ready to go. So I frantically scribbled down some notes and some things to talk about, but for the most part we just ran with it, as I think is going to be a common theme with all these episodes. It's more of a casual discussion and just sort of shoot the shit and see which direction it goes. Just a massive disclaimer for my non-Indian listening friends. Riju has the thickest accent around. So if you're from the western parts of the world. Just take your time with it, and don't get disgruntled if you're struggling with his accent. You'll be amazed at how quickly you can pick it up after you just give it a few minutes of listening in. Before you know it, you will hear him very clearly, and that's just getting familiar with the accent. Hopefully the quality is not too bad. As I record this intro, I'm in the process of sending all the files over to my audio extraordinaire to clean up, pretty up for me. So hopefully it comes out all right. The line was a little bit faint. My end should be reasonably good, but because on the other end, Riju was using his phone, the quality may not be as great, but I think it should be pretty good. So as said before, please give me some feedback. Let me know what you think, and I'll continue to look of ways of improving as we go down the track. I'll provide all the links and show notes and everything on the website, so that's andysocial.net, and I'll also just make mention of some links at the end of this episode as well. But yeah, look, I really hope you enjoy it. As I said, be patient, just give him a few minutes, and as I said, you'll be amazed at how clear everything becomes when you give your brain a little bit of time just to digest the difference in accent. But it's a really fun episode. It was great. It's the first time I've been able to actually verbally speak to him since they were over here and did their tour. So it was really cool just to have a chat over the line and just talk about a whole range of things, everything from his music to Indian gods and the metal scene and different places to visit. So it's cool. If you're fascinated with India, or just if you're a metal fan, you want to hear what a metalhead from India is all about and the things that they like, and you'll be very surprised that they do like very similar things to us as well. But have a listen to it, and please get in contact with Riju through all the links that I'll post and provide at the end of the episode. Let him know what you think. Pass on those good vibes, and yeah, we'll speak soon. Thank you. Enjoy. All right, let's see how this goes. I'm gonna try and call India for the first time. Let's see if I can do this properly or fail miserably. That's a long number.
Hello.
I just heard King Diamond before you answered.
It is my caller tune. Do you want to call me again and listen to the whole thing?
No, that's okay. I was waiting for a ringtone, and then I heard King Diamond. Like, oh, this is great, fantastic. Oh, was that Merciful Fate? Oh, that was cool. That's very cool. Yeah. How you going?
It's awesome. So I was at work until I came back, but I've just sent them a message saying that I won't be working for the next hour.
So what, did you finish? Did you just come home early?
No, so I work from home. I'm a part-time freelance content writer.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, yeah, I was just finishing a few assignments, and today doesn't seem like a busy day, so it seemed like the perfect opportunity to do this. How's it going, man? It's been ages.
It's been a long time since I've heard your voice.
Absolutely, and likewise.
Very cool, very cool. Well, look, as I said before, I won't make this a formal interview. I just thought we'd have a chat, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in Australia who you would have met when you guys toured out here a few years ago that are probably very curious about India and the metal scene there and all the things that are happening now with Albatross and your new band as well. But I thought I'm going to ask some very silly questions because I know these answers already, but I'm going to ask them anyway.
Cool.
So
cool. Before you start, let me just tell you that I heard the Lord album, and so far it's my favorite album this year. It's better than anything I've heard, and Iron Maiden and Queensryche included.
Oh, better than Iron Maiden.
I mean, it wasn't their best effort either, but I mean, all said and done.
It wasn't a hard one to beat.
I mean, we still have the Sherman Denner album coming out later this year, so I mean, that is going to be the one to beat.
Yeah.
But so far, I mean, especially the 25-minute song, that was something else.
Oh,
That
great.
was brilliant.
Well, thank you very much. It's
A big fan, Andy Dowling.
Well, thank you. No, it's gone very well for us so far. So hopefully it leads us to other parts of the world. Fingers crossed. So including India. I hope that we can get there sometime soon. So I'll have to ask you a few questions about touring there soon.
Absolutely.
So over here in Sydney, it's 8:30 at night. So what time is it there in India?
So it's 4:07 in the afternoon.
And you're in Mumbai, is that right?
I am in Mumbai, yes, which is on the western coast of India. I mean, it's pretty much the Sydney of India. I mean, if you go to look at it, because I mean, it's not the capital, but it's probably the most. I mean, how do I put this? The most cosmopolitan city in the country.
And do you have your own opera house?
I mean, yeah, you can call them that.
Have you always lived in Mumbai?
I am originally from the eastern part of India, which is a place called Bengal in India, and so is Bipro, the other guy who sings, I mean, the vocalist of Albatross. We're basically from the eastern coast of India, but like our families moved here a long time ago, and we have practically lived here all our lives. And I mean, the funny thing about Bombay is because it's the most cosmopolitan city, none of the guys in either of my bands, I mean, nobody's like really from Bombay. Like nobody's a resident of Bombay. Nobody was like born and brought up here. Everybody's moved here.
So it's a popular place to be.
Yeah, I mean, this is where, I mean, a lot of us are in the media line in India. And this is where most of the advertising houses and all the, like, journalism agencies and everything is pretty much based here. So all the newspapers, all the radio stations and everything. I mean, this is the primary media hub of the country. And a lot of people from the, the Indian metal scene are, I mean, their day jobs are in the media.
Oh, okay, right. So if I wanted to become a Brett Lee in India, I would have to come there first and try and make a name for myself.
Yeah, we've been working on bringing Lord here for the last 2 years, but something has not materialized so far. I'm sure it will in the future.
And I'm sure if we get Brett Lee to play guitar in the band instead of Mark, then it might make it a lot easier.
I'm sure.
And so, what was the first music that you ever listened to when you were a kid? Was it metal music or was it something else?
So basically, India, I mean, everybody knows about Bollywood. But the funny thing about India is that, I mean, you have different regions in the country and each one of them has its own language. So, I mean, growing up in a Bengali household, I was exposed to a lot of Bengali music, which I hated. So I practically hated music for the first 15 years of my life. Like when I turned 15, I think one of my neighbors came to me and he said, "Oh, check this band out. They're called Rainbow." And I heard them and I'm like, wow, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
And sorry, that was Rainbow?
So, yes. Rainbow was the first real hard rock heavy metal album, like a band that I ever discovered, and Stranger in Us All was the first album that I ever purchased.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you never looked back after that?
No, looking back after that, I mean, over the course of time, I've discovered a lot of music. I mean, ever since I got into Rainbow and Maiden and Priest, I love listening to more traditional forms of music and discovering new forms of music. So I remember early on, like one of the first bands that I discovered was Pegasus from Australia.
Okay, yeah.
And I think the Wings of Steel album, that is what it was called. It was quite popular in India at one point in time because I was discussing the album with a lot of my friends. I picked it up from a music store and it was like, it completely blew my mind. And it introduced me to more music in Australia beyond AC/DC and, Airborne and the likes.
Yeah. Wow. So I know that that Pegasus album was very popular for them, especially in Europe. But I had no idea that anybody in India knew who they were or was exposed to them at the time. So that's really cool.
It's still a very small community. I'll be honest. Most of India, like most of the world, they prefer metalcore and death metal. And traditional metal or heavy metal or power metal has a very small kind of fan base in India. But the small community that does follow this kind of music is very much involved in discovering new bands. And Pegasus was this particular album by Pegasus is quite popular among them. I think Lord has had. You guys have a pretty strong fan base in India right now.
Thanks to you.
Thanks to your music, primarily. But I've seen a lot of people. I have spoken to a lot of people who have heard Set in Stone primarily. I think that was that the album which brought you guys on made you guys popular worldwide?
That was probably the first album as Lord where we really, I guess so. I guess we had a lot more exposure internationally. The album before it didn't. I think we're still trying to convince people with the album beforehand. I think we're trying to prove ourselves or prove to other people what we were doing. And Set in Stone was an album that just got us a lot more attention. So yeah, it was a good one. And I think it definitely helped when I sent a lot of promo CDs to India and Sri Lanka. So I think a lot of people in India have got copies of Set in Stone, which is great.
Yeah, so I think that was the album which also had the Kylie Minogue cover, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. That's definitely helped us.
So, that becomes for a lot of people to discover the music and get into the actual songs later on, I guess.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And pretty good marketing tool.
Yeah, and that was the plan. It brought a lot of new people in out of curiosity. Everyone was curious, and when they heard the song, then they decided to listen to a couple of other songs, and for a lot of people, they got hooked after that, and it worked very well for us. And even now, we still play a lot of shows, and people keep yelling out for us to play that song, and we're like, no, we've played it too much. But if we come to India, we might have to play it just to. We like playing it because it annoys a lot of metalheads, because a lot of metal fans are too serious. So when we play Kylie Minogue live, you can see a lot of metal fans in the crowd look very angry and annoyed that we're playing it. So we love playing it for that reason.
Just to piss some people off. The
Yeah.
That is also very metal.
I guess so. Yeah, definitely. And I saw on Facebook yesterday or the day before that it's the 5th year anniversary of Albatross, or at least the first release in your first show.
Yes, it is. Yesterday was the 5th year anniversary of our first EP, which is Dinner Is You, which was our first release as a band. Albatross had existed before that, and it was primarily my solo project at that time. And the idea was, to make a lot of make different songs with different people, and that clearly wasn't working. So I found some people who were into the same kind of music, and we started Albatross. So our first ever gig was exactly 5 years ago, and we opened for a band from Dubai called Nerve Cell.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe I believe the drummer of Nerve Cell is Australian, Louis Rando.
Yeah, Louis. Yep, yeah. He's from Perth. He's very that guy plays in a million bands. he never stops. It's very impressive. But a great guy, very cool guy.
Yeah, I had spoken to him when he was down. Yeah, absolutely cool guy. And that was the first ever gig. And it's been 5 years since, and several lineup changes later. Here we are.
Yeah, and you've definitely done a lot in the 5 years, including coming all the way to Australia as well and doing some shows here.
And the funny thing is, this year, after we released our first full-length album or third release, the thing is we toured a lot of places in India that we hadn't visited before, including, the bigger cities like Calcutta and Delhi. So we've actually seen more of Australia than we have of India. So, it's been brilliant. And thank you for getting us to Australia. That was one of the best experiences of our short careers so far.
Oh, my pleasure. It was very cool to be able to make it happen and help you guys out. And it was a lot of fun just in the short time that we had together when you were here, but hopefully it won't be the last time.
Hopefully not the last time, indeed. I'm sure in the future we can make something happen again. I wish in the future visa regulations are not as strict as they generally are, and we can keep coming. And likewise, a lot of bands from Australia, especially Lord, come here, and it becomes like a touring circuit every time there's a new release.
Yeah, definitely. I think for us, when we next look to go to Europe or through Asia or even to the US, we will look to include India, because it'll make it a lot easier to stop in on the way or on the way back instead of just flying to India and then back to Australia afterwards. It's something that we've been thinking about for a long time, and I know we've been discussing it for a long time now. So we'll see what happens.
For the last 3 years.
Yeah.
We've been speaking to various promoters who have all disappeared in the course of, after promising you shows in India. So I'll ensure this time there's a reliable promoter who comes on.
I'm still waiting for that promoter who will keep talking to me after two or 3 weeks, because they usually they're very they love to have a very good chat for a long time for the first couple of weeks, and then after that it's very hard to talk to them after that, so they disappear. So hopefully we'll find the right people soon. But I think if we are going to Europe or Asia or the United States, it'll be easier for us to stop, even if it's just for one show, to stop in a capital city in India, if it's Mumbai, and then just do a local club show, just a one show, and then keep going after that. And even just as a first trial to see what India is all about. So I think that'd be really cool. So I don't think that'll be too hard. We'll see how we go.
I'm sure it'll happen in the future. The world is slowly opening up, and I think you guys have visited Malaysia before, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think India, and from what I remember discussing, Malaysia loved you, so I'm guessing India will also be as appreciative. And you guys will have a brilliant show the next time you guys show.
Yeah, and we met when we were in Malaysia and Singapore. We met a lot of people that had moved to both countries from India who were metal fans, and it was very interesting because they knew who we were, and it appeared to be because of webzines and media in India that they knew about our band, which was really cool. So even though we weren't in India, it was still helping us in other parts of the world.
So here's a funny story. We just played in Delhi some time back, and you have sent me some Lord CDs to give out as promos. Yep. With whoever buys an Albatross pack. So, there was this guy who purchased our Albatross album. And so I'm like, so you get this for free? And he's like, oh, Lord, I already have this. So, yeah. I think he's the same guy who met you in Singapore.
Oh, okay, cool. I was going to say, I have no idea how he got that CD, but that's cool.
So yeah, Lord is making waves around the world.
Do you know that person?
I do know the person, Ishan Kumar from
Ishan.
India.
Yeah, I thought it might have been Ishan. Yeah, he runs a web scene as well.
Yeah, he's part of a web scene called Headbangers India, and before I ever met you, I saw your interview there. So
okay,
that was pretty cool.
Okay, so it's a small world.
Indeed.
Cool. Well, look, you've got a new album out now, a new Albatross album, Fear of the Skies. And I've got to admit, there's two things I was really impressed about. One was the artwork, straight away. The artwork's just really, really cool and very different and just very fresh compared to a lot of other metal bands. And it goes so well with the music because the music's very different as well. And that was the second thing that I was really impressed about because I've got your two other releases, Dinner Is You and The Kissing Fires. And I've seen you play live a couple of times now, which is really cool.
3 times.
Yeah. And when I played this this new album, I was blown away. I just was not expecting it. It's very I don't know if you know the word eclectic. It's very unusual sound that you have. It's very different.
Absolutely. Firstly, thank you for everything that you just said. One of the things that we have consciously tried as Albatross is not to confine ourselves to a particular genre. That's why we call ourselves, a lot of people call us, progressive metal. Some people call us power metal, but we choose to stay away from those tags, and what we call ourselves is horror metal, which means nothing except we play what we want, which includes everything from heavy metal to thrash metal to power metal. There are some highly progressive elements in the music as well. And King Diamond said this, that he was asked what kind of music you play. He said the difference between Merciful Fate is Merciful Fate has a distinct sound, but with King Diamond, I write a story and we play whatever is needed to tell the story, which I think is also the case with Albatross, and that is why we consciously try to make this release sound more different than the others.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's very cool. Like it's I was trying to listen to the album and try and pick all the different influences, like what the different bands that you sound like, and it's really hard now because I think the first EP, it was very much, I heard a lot of King Diamond in it, of course, and you had Andy Lorock. Did he mix the album or master the album? The EP?
This one, no. This one, the EP, yes.
Yeah, the EP did, yeah. But you could hear a lot of King Diamond influence in that first EP that you released, and now you can still hear that, but there's just so much more that's happening now. There's so many different styles and everything in there. What are the are there particular bands that you all that were big influences on the new album?
So the funny thing about Albatross is that if you put all of us in the car together, and if we had to all pick one band that we would enjoy in the car, we wouldn't be able to, because we all have very different influences. I like a lot of European and American power metal and Australian melodic metal, of course. I enjoy a lot of shred in the music. I like high-pitched vocals, stuff like that. The others are very different. For example, the biggest difference between this album and the others is that we have 3 guitarists now on board. And what that does is, it gives us a world of possibilities. Without beating our own drum, both the guitarists who are part of Albatross, they're quite good technically. And the third guy adds a whole new dimension. So, we are not limited by just 2 guitars in the band. We have 3 guitars and all of them play lead. So, it's not like one rhythm guitarist and one lead guitarist. There are 3 lead guitarists in the band. So, while I am into a lot more of these bands, our vocalist Vipro, he's influenced by a lot of music which is not metal per se. So everything from Queen to, I think he also listens to some Bollywood, honestly. Yeah. And the other guys, most of them, they're into, Nishit is into a lot of Nevermore, and he listens to a lot of shred guitar, basically. Vignesh, his world revolves around death. Then there is Varun, the new guy. He's how exactly do I put this? He's a flower child, so he's like stuck in the whole Woodstock '69 era. And
that would bring a very different element to the band.
Absolutely, and the good thing about this is, suppose Vignesh comes up with a guitar idea which is a little progressive in nature. I make somebody else solo over it, so that just gives it its own touch. All three of them have different styles, and so if somebody writes a riff which belongs to a certain style, and you make somebody else who has a different soloing style solo over it, it just like makes the whole band sound killer.
That's cool. That's really cool. Awesome. And I clearly haven't been paying attention, but you've got a new band as well, Primitiv?
I do have a new band. We've been around for a while, but what has happened is that we haven't really... it's not as focused as Albatross right now until recently. We've been around for the last 3 years, honestly. And what we do is we play a lot of stoner doom influenced metal with harsh vocals. And the lyrics are all rooted in fantasy. So again, that makes for a very weird, bastard child of...
It's an interesting mix. And what sort of bands does it sound like? What sort of bands are the main influences?
Again, we have not tried to confine ourselves to a particular sound, but I would say it sounds like Black Sabbath with growled vocals, maybe.
Okay, cool.
So
I'll have to...
Sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'll have to check it out. I haven't heard any of it yet, so but it sounds really cool. I like a lot of that old. It's very I guess that old school Sabbath sound, but the very 70s sludgy rock doom sound, and I guess even like a Candlemass kind of sound to a degree. Would it sort of have a little bit of a Candlemass sound, like as far as the music goes?
I would say it has evolved from the Sabbath sound. Sabbath riffs are what come to you when you're first jamming, naturally, I would guess. Because, as we are evolving, we are reaching the Candlemass kind of sound. And it's also gone into, the other guys in the band, they are all big death metal fans. So there are certain death metal elements also which are in the music. That's a first for me also because I'm not used to, growled vocals and beats in the music. And while, it's not really all over the place, there are certain sections which have these elements. So it's interesting. Once again, we don't call ourselves doom metal or death metal or stoner sludge metal. What we do is we call ourselves Stone Age metal, which gives us the authority to write whatever we want to, until we cover our own sound.
I like that. So you create your own genre.
Yes, we do. And that's that's what I like about Lord as well. There are so many influences in that 25-minute song from the new album. There are certain parts which sound almost black metal, right?
Yeah.
Why inhibit yourself to a certain kind of sound when the whole world is open in front of you? I know there are certain places I would not go with the music. Like I will not make it sound like Linkin Park, but at the same time, imposing boundaries on yourself might also prove to be detrimental.
Yeah, it's I think for us we're very, very, very similar to how you guys are in Albatross. We all love different styles of music, and I think for us, we can throw all these different styles of music together, and as long as it comes out sounding like Lord and it's got our sound, our production, then that's what we want. It's and we can have a hard rock song, we can have a melodic death metal song, we can have a thrash metal song, we can have a flower power metal song like it's something straight out of the middle of Italy, or we can have like a US power metal song. We can have all these different types of songs, and in some cases like that, like the 25-minute track, What Tomorrow Brings, we can have all these different elements, all these different genres all in the one song, and make it flow as best it can, so it does still sound like one complete song and it doesn't sound like it's all over the place. But I think it's good. I like the idea of bands not being confined to one sound and having to play a particular style of music. I think if that's all you like and you only like one style of music, then that's fine. But I don't think that a band should have to stay one particular style just to make other people happy. So I think that's really cool that both of your bands have both got that same vision, same mentality, that you're both willing to push the boundaries and create what you enjoy.
And you bring out a very important point, which is we do it around. I would like to experiment, but you do it around the Lord template. There is a particular sound for Albatross and Primitiv. Both the bands have a very definitive sound, but we like to experiment within the boundaries of that, and because your fans come to expect a certain kind of sound from you, and like if you stay too far away, it might just be it might not be fair to them either.
Yeah, and I think for us, if we have something that's very, very, very different to what the Lord sound is, or as you said, the Lord template, then that's when we have side projects and we have other music things that we record under a different name, so that people have a chance to release music and be creative and put things out that might not fit in that mold, in that template of what Lord is. So it's I completely agree. It's great to have the diversity and have lots of different elements and be open and flexible, but it's very smart to keep it within a certain type of sound that the majority of your fans can appreciate. I mean, we still have a lot of people that will buy one of our albums and they'll like, there might be 10 songs on an album and they might like 5 of them and the other 5 they hate.
Right.
And we get a lot of people that go, oh, I don't like those songs where you've got the harsh vocals. And then we've got other people that like the songs with the harsh vocals but hate the songs where Tim actually sings. And so, and sometimes you get, initially, especially for me, I got a bit offended when people go, oh, I don't like this particular song or that song or whatever. And straight away I was like, oh, well, fuck you. Like, you're saying you don't like our music. What are you on about? But then you realise that because we're playing a lot of different elements and different styles within our sound, that you can't expect everybody to like absolutely everything that you do. And I think if someone likes a number of songs off your album, then you're still in a pretty good spot. We always release an album or an EP now, and we know that, there will be a core group of fans that will love everything. And then there'll be a lot of casual fans that will like some songs and then they won't like other songs. But that's fine. As long as they keep buying CDs, then I'll be happy.
Which is the biggest problem every band faces these days. But let me ask you a question here. What does Lord what style do you say your music is when somebody asks what kind of music does Lord play? Yeah,
it's a hard question because it's very hard. It depends on who asks and where I am, because if 2 weeks ago I was in America, in the United States, and I went to Prog Power, the festival there. And so the people that asked me about the band there, I told them that we played power metal, because a lot of the people there were either progressive metal fans or power metal fans. And I knew that if I said power metal, then it's a lot easier for people to relate to it and for a lot of people be interested as well. So instead of me trying to explain that we're a metal band, but we've got all these different elements, etc., and you can see people lose interest very quickly because it sounds too complicated. So in that setting, I more or less said that we were a power metal band. But in other places, I'll just say that we're a heavy metal band. And when I say heavy metal, a lot of people might just think of bands like Manowar, which is fine.
Absolutely.
But we don't sound anything like them. But that's okay. But I try and just say we're a metal band, and then if somebody wants to ask more questions about the sound, then I usually try and name a number of bands that we sound like, and that's usually a lot easier for me to, instead of giving a genre. So I will say, look, I play in a metal band, and we sound like a mixture of Queensryche, Halloween, Iron Maiden, a bit of Symphony X, etc. And then you can see people go, oh wow, I love those bands. I might like your stuff. And so that usually is a lot easier for me to do it that way than trying to explain what genre we're meant to be. But yeah, it definitely depends on the setting, like the place and the people that you speak to. But with Albatross, what you mentioned before, what was the genre of metal that you call yourselves?
Horror metal. Simply because the theme of the band is we write horror stories, and we express these horror stories through metal. So what we have done is we have removed the musical element from the genre tag, and what we have added is the lyrical content, which remains constant across albums. So while you might hear the sound, evolve over album, our basic template is that we'll have horror stories told through metal, and it doesn't matter whether it is heavy metal or power metal or borderline death metal or thrash metal. This is the lyrical content is going to be constant. Similarly with Primitiv, we call ourselves Stone Age metal simply because the idea was to form an old school band, much on the lines of Sabbath. But we were joking among ourselves that what we will do is we'll form a band which is older than old school, so it becomes Primitiv.
Okay.
And the whole idea it was pretty awful as a joke. But, yeah.
Black Sabbath from the Stone Age.
And the lyrics also, the lyrics began to reflect. It's about primitive man. Yeah. And just for kicks, we've introduced gods and robots who inhabit this world with primitive man. And cool. Man basically gets screwed in every scenario.
Oh, that's really cool. I think I think for both bands, it's very smart that you created your own style and the way that you tell people and describe it. I think it helps people become interested in the music, because if you say, Stone Age metal or horror metal, then people go, well, what is that? And then they're intrigued to have a listen to see exactly what it is. Whereas, you could say, oh, well, we're a thrash metal band. So instantly, if someone says they're a thrash metal band, then I think of, then they must sound like Megadeth or Anthrax or Creator or Destruction or all these bands. And if you don't like any of those bands, then you probably wouldn't try and listen to it. Or same with power metal or any genre. So I think you're very smart with both bands and having a unique description of the music. That's really cool.
The thing is, there's apparently a very underground niche kind of movement horror metal in certain parts of the world, and the bands which do play this kind of music sound nothing like us. It was brought to our notice much after the band was formed. So so that they were like, oh, expected you to sound like this horror metal band, but you sound nothing like it. You sound more like King Diamond, who's a proto borderline something power metal band. I'm like, okay.
That's all right. It just means that you have to start a new trend. You can lead the way, and then people will associate the genre with you instead of those other bands. So it's good.
Hopefully.
Hey, I've got a very unusual question for you, and I think I hope you know what I'm talking about. But there's a series of videos on YouTube that are called "How to Talk Australian." Have you seen them?
I have the ones in which Indians behave like Australians.
Yes.
It was weird to say the least. I mean, someone linked me to them, and they're a little weird. What's your take on them?
What do I think of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that they're really funny. They're great. They're really, really good. They're it's all the jokes in the videos are very they're very stereotypical of your Australian person. So if you're thinking of stereotypes, if you think of someone from a particular country, they've done it very well. It's very, very, very well. It's very funny. I watched all the videos and I showed a lot of friends and we were all laughing. It was really good. It was just just trying to think of the way to describe it. The way that they've done it, it's just very good sense of humour, and it's this type of humour that I think a lot of people in Australia like and have that type of humour, and then having that with the association of them trying to be Australian is really funny. It's really, really funny. Is that something that like a lot of people in India would have seen, or is it something more that probably just Australians have seen?
I am guessing more Australians have seen it because someone had linked that video to me, but this was in the middle of something I was doing. So I remember I saw half of it, but I really couldn't get into the series. I'm actually the wrong person to answer this, but I probably have to go back and check them out.
I'll have to when I put this episode online, I'll put a few links to the videos so people can check them out if they don't know what we're talking about. But when I was quickly chatting to you on Facebook before I gave you a call. That was one of the first things that came to my mind. I thought, I've got to ask him about this. Which is, I'm sure there's. I mean, clearly there's a lot of better things to talk about, but it's one thing that's just stuck in my head, and I just love the sense of humor, and it just seems to be like. Just when I met you guys, when you guys came over and played here in Australia, and a lot of other people that I've met from India as well. And I'm sure it's the same everywhere. Not everybody has the same sense of humour, but you all
Absolutely.
seem to be very... I think you're very similar to Australians in a way, or you guys that I've met and people that I've spoken to online and other people that I've met over the years. A lot of Indians have a very similar sense of humour to Australians. You're very, very laid back, I think. You're very... I'm just trying to think of the best word to describe it. It's very hard to describe, but it's not a serious sense of humour. It's just a very light-hearted sense of humour. It's really good.
This depends on which Indian you're talking to, because we have certain sections of India who burn buses and cars if they're offended. And their God is offended. But speaking of, speaking of racial, tell me.
No, I was just going to say, don't worry. We have a lot of dickhead Australians as well who do a lot of bad things or crazy things. So it's okay. We're even. It's fine. No, sorry. Continue.
I was saying, speaking of racial stereotypes, I remember when we had come over to Australia. You had impersonated Sahil from Headbangers Kitchen. Like, can you do that? Because ever since I told him that you had done it, he's very curious to check out how it sounds.
He'll probably want to fight me if I do it and he hears me. No, look, it wasn't the stereotype. I was just mimicking his voice from his Headbangers Kitchen video. But he was talking about bacon bombs. And he said, I can't remember the sentence, but whenever he said bacon bombs, he said bacon bombs, and it was so funny. It was and I was actually I was watching some of his videos the other day, his Headbanger Kitchen videos, and he had the guys from Fear Factory, and
yes.
I hadn't listened to him talk for so long, and I played the video and he started talking, and I just laughed. I just love his accent. It's just so thick, and it's just it's fantastic. I love it, and I wasn't expecting it because I hadn't heard his voice for so long, and then I played the video and he started speaking, and he just seemed really excited that he was meeting Burton and Dino from Fear Factory, and the excitement mixed with the accent, I laughed so hard. It was great. He's such a good guy. I really love that guy. He's great.
But could you do the voice again? I'm sure you'd love to hear.
I do love my bacon bombs.
That was fantastic.
Just don't. I hope someone doesn't like record a bit of this and then sample it somewhere or keep playing it somewhere. But that's okay. I'm sure he'll listen to this, and I'll make sure that I put a few Headbangers Kitchen episodes on the website as well, so people can check that out. But he's I think between you and him with Sahil, I think you both seem to be very, very active in the metal scene in India, and I think a lot of people know who you both are, especially Sahil. But I think for both of you, when I watch what you post on Facebook, and a lot of people interact with you and talk to you, and you seem to be somebody that's very well connected and within the local Indian metal scene, and definitely Sahil as well, with all of his his band Demonic Resurrection and all his other projects. He's got so many things going on, and I think between the both of you seem to take up a large chunk of the Indian metal scene.
The thing about the Indian metal scene is, all the interaction that you see on these updates are, there's a lot of interaction unless you say, please buy your CD from this link. And then suddenly you hear crickets. Yeah.
That's the same everywhere. It's the same in Australia as well. It's exactly the same.
But he's been around forever. When I started out, I started playing actively for bands in 2004, I believe. And he was already an established kind of figure back then. He was the first guy in India who probably came up with a nickname for himself. He calls himself the Demon Stealer. So, yeah. And, yes, he's been part of so many, Silas been part of so many bands over the years that, each of them from a different, they play a different style of music. So each one of them has their own following, and, he's also very outspoken about a lot of political issues, and every India has around 30,000 gods, if I'm not mistaken, and each one of them, and there are a lot of these religious ceremonies which happen on the road, and there's disruption of public life and traffic, and I think Sahil gets very annoyed with those disturbances, and he puts up statuses which have a lot of interaction on them.
So there's 30,000 gods, and he's had 30,000 status updates about each god and how much each one annoys him.
I think there are some primary gods. Because the country is so big and one god is worshipped in every part of the country. Yep. We don't have to deal with all 30,000 of them at one stretch. But yeah, until yesterday there was the elephant god. There's a god called Ganesh who has the face of an elephant. Yep. And he's the god in Bombay, and for 10 days they celebrate the festival, and one of the biggest parts of the festival is the sending away of the god. So they are immersed in water bodies. And there's this huge procession which takes them to the sea, causing a lot of disruption of public life and everything. While it might sound exotic to you, it becomes horrible for people out here.
I can.
There's Bollywood blaring on speakers and everything. So we are all still reading from it.
I remember a few years ago, the Pope came to Sydney. This is I can't remember, probably 6 or 7 years ago, and it was chaos. There was about 500,000 people just in the middle of the city, in the central part where I took you guys, and it was just chaos. It was just incredible how many people were there, and for a lot of people who were Christian, it was the greatest day of their lives. They were loving it, and it was fantastic. But for the rest of us, we hated it. It was horrible. It was really disruptive. A lot of chaos, a lot of traffic, and a lot of cancellations of different things. And it was very, very inconvenient. But I guess for us, it was just a one time, and he will probably, or the Pope will never come back again for a few decades. But I guess for you guys, it happens multiple times a year with each of these gods, or the more popular ones anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, it's become a way of life. I mean, what we have done right now is we have offended religious people in both our countries, so might as well go all out.
I was going to ask you actually, because I remember when you guys came over, and I think I asked a question about all the gods, and you said, Bipro, believes in a couple of the gods or something like that, but for the rest of you guys didn't really believe in any of the gods that are worshipped. Was that right, that I can remember?
I'm guessing. I can't speak for everybody, but I mean, none of us. I mean, Bipro, while he might be he's spiritually inclined and he does believe in God, he's not. He won't force his beliefs down other people's throats. Which most of the country is guilty of. So, I mean, I would say that, there are different sections, and, without getting into specifics, there's the more educated crowd which does not believe in creating spectacles on the road, and there's a bigger. A lot of India is not educated, and they do become a nuisance at times. So it's a bigger problem for Sahil than it is for me, because his house is right next to the beach. He lives right by the beach. And hence, all the status updates about these gods arise from that, because every single god is immersed into the sea right next to his house. And this is accompanied by loud Bollywood music and dancing and drunk people on the road.
So no peace and quiet.
No peace and quiet, at least for a while. The next festival that's coming up is the Festival of Crackers. It's called Diwali.
Yeah.
So there'll be a lot of firecrackers.
Oh, firecrackers. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yes. Firecrackers, and every kind of firecrackers. So there'll be rockets in the sky, and there'll be more terrestrial firecrackers, which and some of them are loud. So you can't even drown them out if you're listening to loud music in your own house.
Well, that'll probably lead me into my next question, because I was just going to say, I know for you guys it's it's a way of life and can be quite annoying at times, but I'd love to experience at least some of these festivals at least once, just to see how big it is and how chaotic and noisy and full of energy it is. But whether I come over for a holiday or if Lord tours, where do you think the best places would be to go in India? If okay, first of all, if I come over for a holiday, where should I go?
It depends on what kind of experience you're looking at. I'll give you an example. A few years ago, Albatross was invited to play in a city called Varanasi. Varanasi is in the north of India, and it's considered the holy city for the Hindu religion. And I did mention some of the inconveniences on the road. It's nothing compared to a city devoted to religion. So, it was exotic even for us. Even for people from Bombay, we found the experience to be a little more than we could take at that point in time. So if you're looking for a hardcore and it's pretty crazy. Full marks to people. A lot of people believe in faith, and they queue outside temples for hours and hours. But at the same time, I don't want to make fun of them, because I have done the same thing when Iron Maiden came to India for the first time. So it's pretty much the same thing. But if you had to visit somewhere in India, because India is such a big country, you can have a variety of experiences. You can have You can visit the mountains of the north, the Himalayas, which are the highest mountain peaks in the world. And while Mount Everest is not in India, it's right, it's in Nepal, but the same mountain range extends throughout India, and you can have that kind of mountain trekking experience. At the same time, there's this place called Goa, which is frequented by a lot of people from Australia. They come for vacations. It's the beach destination in India. At the same time, you have, there are a lot of people who convert to the Hindu way of life, and they visit different religious centers around the country. So there's a place I mentioned, Varanasi. There are many other places in India which are supposed holy places. You have something called a Shivling. So Shiva is supposed to be the Indian god of destruction, and he's quite a badass. He has snakes around his throat, like a Shiva idol will have. Yeah,
that sounds cool.
That sounds cool. And there are different places where he's worshipped. These places are called Shivling. Shivling basically denotes the phallus of this god. So basically, we are worshipping. There are people who travel half the country to worship his phallus. He's that much of a badass.
And if an Australian, you're saying it so politely, and if an Australian would say it, they'd be just worshipping the dick.
I could have said that. I'm trying to be as politically correct as possible. Like, I'll give you... I try not to speak about politics and religion because, there are so many people who are sensitive about these things. And especially with politics in India, they should be, because we have had, practically every politician who's come to power has been corrupt so far. And I don't have an in-depth knowledge of the Indian political system. I don't vote. So I try not to give I try not to offer my opinions on religion or on politics. But
probably a smart move.
There was this recent case where an atheist was shot dead in the southern part of India. So I'm like, maybe I should keep some of my opinions to myself as this interview progresses. Yeah, but I am guessing that was a one-off. Like, unless I'm killed by the end of the night, hoping it was a one-off.
I hope so too. Well, look, hey, who knows? This podcast interview could be listened to by quite a few people in India. So we'll behave. We'll
yeah. Let's do that.
Well, look, and I guess the second part of that question is, if we did come over and play. If Lord came over and played in India, or any metal band that wants to come to India and play, where are the places? Where are the cities that a metal band should play? Where are the best places?
This is how it works in India. The touring circuit does not really exist. So, while there are different venues in various parts of the country, you can't just book a tour. Over a week. So what you have to essentially do is, and most bands who come to India, for example, Hammerfall had come to India in 2009, I believe, and they were invited by a college. So what happens is there are these independent colleges who have their college festivals, and they there are a lot of metalheads in every college, and they get together and they invite their favorite band. So, we had Hammerfall come to India that way. We had we had a pretty popular Australian band come over. I'm not really into their music, but I think they're quite big in India. They're called Carnival.
Yep, they're a big. They're a pretty popular band in Australia as well. Very different style of music, but very popular.
Yes, and I think they come to India practically every year. Similarly, I think Parkway Drive had come down once. So, these were all college festivals who had invited these bands over. The only bands... so these are, I would say that if Lord has to come to India in the future, it will probably be one of these college festivals. Now, the funny thing about a lot of these colleges is that they are not in, the more cosmopolitan cities, because there is there might be one such college which calls an international band over in Bombay and one in Delhi. But I mean, we have played some college festivals as well. So we played, like I told you, we played in the holy city of Varanasi. We played one college festival there. And it's not generally, I mean, no other metal festivals happen. It's not part of the regular, like, it's not an active metal city, so to speak. Similarly, there is Goa, the beach place I just told you about. And we have played one college festival there. So you have pub shows happening in cities like Bombay, Bangalore, Delhi, Calcutta, Hyderabad, Chennai, which are the major cities around the country. You have pub shows happening there, and shows happen on a regular basis. You have college shows happening at a lot of smaller cities around the country, but they are few and far between, and they generally invite like one Indian band to open for an international band they fall down. So you'll have Porcupine Tree and somebody else, etc. That generally happens.
So a lot of I'll have to start talking to a lot of colleges then.
Absolutely. They are the only guys with the kind of budget that is required, because a few days ago, I think Halloween had, they're coming to the northeast of India, which is removed from where we are. We are at the western end of India, and they are at the extreme eastern end. So Halloween was playing there, and they wanted to tour other parts of India as well. And I mean, the offer was, I think, pretty reasonable by European and Australian standards. But at the same time, it was too much for any independent Indian organizer to promoter to get them down.
Yeah.
So it generally it depends on these colleges to they are the only ones with the budget to call these bands down.
Well, I'll have to keep searching for colleges all over India and see if we can find one who likes us enough. I remember very early in the piece, so 2 or 3 years ago, not long after we met, right. There was one college. It was a technology college in northern India, and I can't remember the name of the city, but it started with K. And and the organizer or the person we spoke to quite a bit on email, and it looked very, very good. And what their proposal was that they would pay for half of the travel costs, and then they would contact the Australian embassy for the Australian embassy to pay the other half. And apparently they went to the Australian embassy, and our embassy basically said to piss off, and they weren't interested. So they said, "Oh, look, we can't. Your embassy isn't interested in supporting you." And I went, "Oh, okay, right, fair enough." So I might have to dig through some old emails and see if I can contact that person again, and we can try again, because that was probably the most promising one out of all the people that we've spoken to. As far as promoters go, that person we spoke to for quite a number of months, and when the Australian embassy didn't want to help, it all stopped right there. So maybe we can try again. Maybe there's some different people working at the embassy now that like a bit of Australian heavy metal.
Two things there. I mean, why they spoke about the embassy is a lot of these colleges, they bring down a lot of European folk metal acts. And they are supported by the Scandinavian embassy because it's also part of their culture. So I believe Ensiferum is a band from there, and they have come down to Bombay. Yeah. So Ensiferum was supported by which I'm not sure which country they're from, but I mean, I was told by the college that the embassy had paid a fair amount of the cost that they had borne. And the second thing is, you probably can't get in touch with this guy again, because these guys finish their course and they move on to other things in life.
That's right. Yeah, very, very, very good point. I didn't think of that. Yeah, he'll be long gone now. Oh well, never mind. Maybe I can find the name of the university and the college and see if anybody else is there. But I guess it does come down to who organises the music and what styles of music they like. I guess that's probably the hardest thing, is to find somebody who likes that style of music and likes the band.
Absolutely, man. When Albatross had just begun, we were slotted into the classic heavy metal category because there was nobody who sounded classic heavy metal in the country. Everybody was just playing extreme forms of metal at that point in time. And when Wipro started singing, when Wipro basically started singing, we used to get messages on Facebook saying, "Where are the growls, bro?" WERDGROWLZDR, whatever, DR0. Yeah.
Oh, dude. Oh, well, look, I think it's something that I'll have to start looking into again, because it seems to be the best way to get over there. But as I said before, I think when we look to tour overseas again, maybe we can just make a quick stopover in Mumbai and just do a small pub show and before we keep moving on to the next country. And that's probably going to be the cheapest way of us coming to India, and then that might open the doors, and then we can come back again and play something bigger. So, but we'll see what the future holds.
I'm sure, man. Yeah, awesome. Isn't this call costing you a fortune? Because it's been over. I'm a little worried at this point.
Don't worry about me. It's worth the investment. But I'll ask you one more question, and then I'll wrap it up. And then
right.
Yeah, and then I probably need to go to bed soon anyway. But so can you tell me, and I guess for people that listen to this who aren't from India, what's the best beer or what's the best alcohol to drink in India? If you're going to India and you want to have some alcohol or at least some beer, what's the best drinks to have?
It's not beer. Okay, to be very honest, Indian beer is shit. And this was pretty much proved by that. When we had come to Australia, the highlight, even though we loved playing to the Australian audience, the absolute highlight for us was Australian beer. I mean, nothing comes close. Indian beer is shit in comparison. Although, but one drink which is quite popular with most of the bands who tour India is this kind of rum called Old Monk.
Old Monk, okay, yeah.
Yeah. You don't get that in other parts of the world. And do you know Wolf, the Swedish heavy metal band? So when they had, they had played a festival in India, and we were the opening act. And we had got a lot of Indian alcohol for them. We had purchased a lot of Indian alcohol for them, and the only thing they all drank throughout was Old Monk rum. That was all they had for through the evening. It's quite horrible. It gives you a hangover, but I guess that is the Indian experience.
So if you want a true Indian experience, you have to have Old Monk.
Old Monk rum.
Oh, that's cool. Well, okay, man. Well, I'll let you go because I know that you probably got a lot of work to do. So thanks for taking the time to have a chat to me. And I'll have all the links to all the Albatross stuff, Primitiv. I'll put a bunch of stuff for Sahil on there as well, just because I was teasing him before, so I better do the nice thing and put some links in there for him as well. And it'll be great if you can cut that bit out and make a remix video like you had said. Oh, just me saying Bacon Bomb over and over again.
Yeah. With some background music, with some
maybe with some Bollywood music in the background, or
totally.
Or a mixture of that and some demonic resurrection music or something like that. We can do a really, really crazy remix of all those sounds with the Bacon Bomb mix.
Totally, man.
Oh, cool, man. Well, thanks so much, man, and take care, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. So, thank you for calling. It was great to catch up. And I should have done this before, but congratulations on getting engaged. I haven't spoken since then. So congratulations on that, and congratulations on your new house.
Oh, thank you very much, Riju. I appreciate it. And we'll speak soon, man.
Cool, man. My boss has called me some 10 times. I better call him back at this point.
All right.
Cool, man.
See you, Riju. See you, man. Thank you, guys and gals. I hope you enjoyed that. It was a really cool episode, and I had a lot of fun talking to Riju. That was actually the first time that I've spoken to him since we saw each other when they were in Australia a few years ago. So it was really cool just to catch up and be able to speak over the phone and talk about a whole range of things. So it was really, really cool, and I hope people enjoyed it and didn't get too scared off by the thick accent. And I must say, I guess probably just a little bit of a side comment. I know a lot of people, or I've met a lot of people in my travels that tend to zone out or glaze over when somebody has got a thick accent, and you have to be a little bit more attentive initially to try and understand what somebody's saying. I think if people are just show a bit more patience and give themselves a few minutes just to, adjust and listen, you'll be very surprised at how clear everything becomes. And I do hope that a lot of people listened to that episode and enjoyed it and got something out of it. And a big hello to all my friends in India. I've got so many people from India on Facebook. It's not funny. And the fact that we haven't played there yet is a bit silly. So we're trying our best to get over there. It's not an easy place to get to, especially from a financial point of view. But look, there are opportunities there, and we'll do our best to try and get over there in the near future. And it's a big positive that we've got great people like Riju there, and Sahil, and a few other guys there that really make the whole thought of going there seem very attractive and enticing. So it'll definitely be a bucket list country for us to go to as a band to be able to experience and play. So hopefully it'll happen soon. But I guess to all those friends of mine from India that I talk to often on Facebook and interact with, if you guys want us over there, just keep spreading the word, keep telling people about us, and we'll do what we can to get over there ASAP. If you want to catch up with Riju, contact him, tell him that you liked the episode. Don't contact him if you're a dickhead and want to say something inappropriate. Well, you can, but I'd prefer you not to. If you want to check out his music, you can contact him through both of his bands. So you've got Albatross. The best websites are probably the Facebook pages. So you've got facebook.com/Albatross India, all one word. They've also got a SoundCloud page, and that's soundcloud.com/Albatross Horror, or one word. For his newer band Primitiv, Facebook page is facebook.com/Primitiv Band. That's spelled PRIMITIVBAND. They've also got a SoundCloud page, which is soundcloud.com/Primitiv India, which is PRIMITIVINDIA. There's plenty of I's in there. If you don't catch that, you're driving at the moment, or you're doing something where you just can't write those things down, don't fret. You can go straight to my website, andysocial.net. All the links will be in the show notes, including all the things that we discussed. I'll try and find some additional pictures and things to place in there, but I'll also have some video links to the How to Talk Australian videos that I was quizzing Riju about, and also the Headbangers Kitchen stuff that our friend Sahil puts together, and are actually really, really cool. And actually, Sahil, I know you're listening now, so let's hook up a podcast episode sometime in the near future, and we'll talk about everything that you do, because you're definitely a busy guy. That's about it. Next episode is going to be not another in-between episode, but it's going to be a bit of a recap of my trip to the States from a couple of weeks ago. I went over for the Prog Power USA Festival via a couple of other cities to do a bit of promo work for the band, get the name out there and do a bit of schmoozing. A very successful trip away, and a lot of good times. I actually wrote a blog before I left giving a bit of context as to what my trip was about, and had every intention to do regular blog updates as I was away, but as I'm sure a lot of people can relate to when you've got a lack of sleep and a lot of alcohol consumption, you tend to get distracted a little bit and not stay on task. So I'm definitely going to make up for it by doing a dedicated episode to my US trip. And I'll run through all that by blow. Hopefully not too boring. I'll try and summarize as much as I can and try and make it as interesting as possible. After that, I've got a couple more episodes that are almost in the bag. Looking forward to them. 2 very cool guests that I'll have on, and just 2 more that I've managed to tick off the list of quite a large number of people that I've got written down in my little notebook here. So it's actually quite exciting to have a look and look at all the people that I've got here. And it's definitely a cool thing to realize that, and I think it's probably the same with a lot of people, you don't realize how many amazing people you really associate yourself with until you really sit back and have a look and see what people do and what they're interested in and what their passions are and whatnot. And the next few episodes are really going to highlight that. And I mean, they already have up until now, but they'll continue to do so in the future. And it's not about the big names. And I'll have a few as we go along down the track. I've got a few really good friends that I'd love to have on that a lot of people will know. But the big thing about this podcast is really just to talk to people that I know, and they may not be as well known, but they'll be people that have got a story to tell and something interesting to say. And as I said in the first episode, it might just trigger a thought or give you a little bit of inspiration to do something positive in your life, whether that be for yourself or for somebody else. So really liking where this thing's going at the moment, and hopefully it continues on. And a massive thank you for everybody that's continuing to listen and enjoying what we're doing. And finally, before I wrap it up, please go to iTunes if you're an iTunes user. Please give me some ratings, make up some fake reviews, just do something to make my podcast jump up the charts. I'd love to see it right up there high in the charts. I know it's going to be months or probably years away before it really sort of gets some traction, and I know it will. I've got a good feeling about this, and I'm going to continue to push it along. Hopefully it continues to go in that direction. But please, if you can spare a few minutes, get in there and do a review and a rating. And if you don't use Apple, then jump on the Facebook page and please just go and like and comment on as much stuff as you can on that page, because Facebook sucks. They're absolute assholes when it comes to posts and how many people see these posts. I mean, for example, our band page has got 20,000 plus fans on it, but every time we make a post, we're really reaching anywhere between 300 and 2,000 people per post. So we're shooting ourselves, well, not shooting ourselves in the foot, but we're really being disadvantaged by not being able to connect with all those people who actually went out of their way to like our page and wanting to know what we're up to. So it's very difficult to try and maintain contact with people via that platform these days. So if you're not an Apple user, then jump over to Facebook and just give me a bit of activity on there. Comment, like, share stuff, and that'll definitely help as well get the name out there. And look, as far as Android, I have no idea how that stuff works. So if there's any rating systems for podcasts and whatever, then I will appreciate anything that you guys can do. And if you've got any tips of how to make this bigger and better and how to get it out to more people, then please shoot me a message or leave a message on the Facebook page, or there's a contact form on the web page on my website as well. And let me know. I'm all ears. I'm really interested in some creative ideas of how to get the name out there more and get more people listening. And if there's particular things that you think will be of benefit, I'm all ears. Whether or not I take on that advice is another thing, but I am very much open to any ideas. You just never know. So anyway, enough rambling. Thank you very much again for listening, and I will see you very soon. Ta-ta.